Welcome to Order 42. I am Rob, and today, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. We're doing some Star Wars talk. So welcome. As always, it's great to do the show. It's fun to do the show, and I love that people come and watch. It's fun. The Eagle and Vicky are here. Fist of Bucho is here. Hello. How is it going? Watch out for Nightbot. That's all I'm going to say. Just, keep those caps under wraps. Because you never know. Nightbot may strike, and that's a dangerous thing. So yeah, I mean, we're here. It's been a wacky day here in America. I'm just saying. Yeah. So we're here to relax. We're here to just chill out and talk about something something I love. Me personally. I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, as you can probably see, and there's stuff everywhere. If you guys watched the show a couple of weeks ago when I was, going through all my toys and stuff. But let's get into it. Okay? Let's get into it. And really we're kind of going to start with something that's kind of a news item. Yeah, this one's a strange one. But you could say, a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. Ron Howard was interviewed about some of his other projects, I think, and he was talking about the possibility of doing a sequel to Solo. And basically, this is what he says. No rumblings. And this is not a spoiler or anything, but I think there's interest in those characters. There's interest in the gangster world. Nothing is being developed right now, but there's a lot of affection shown, and of course that keeps boding well for them to eventually turn it around. So basically, if you're a fan of Solo, there's still hope. But you have to realize that Solo didn't do well. And you can say, well, that's because of The Last Jedi. It's The Last Jedi and a lot of other reasons. The fact that they didn't promote it very well. The fact that the firing of Phil Lord and Christopher Miller was, highly publicized and probably made people think that the movie was going to suck. If you hadn't seen Solo, the idea for a lot of people that, they're going to do a young Han Solo movie, I can see why people might be upset about that. Or say, that's not even something I care to see. That's fine and dandy, but I think a lot of people that watched that ended up really enjoying it. They just really enjoyed it. It's light. It's a breezy, just fun-filled adventure. And yeah, does it have any, is there like this big thing that happens that, changes the whole, scope of Star Wars? No. But it doesn't have to be. And I think that's where Disney, in a way, is missing, is this idea that we can branch out and tell different stories, without any sort of baggage, Now, of course, that had baggage, the fact that people were like, oh, well, then why didn't you hire this impersonator? Why didn't you hire this guy? Why didn't you, do a de-aging of Harrison Ford? Because it's whatever. I think the thing that we as fans of movies, whether it's Star Wars, Marvel, DC, any of these, right? We bring baggage to whatever we see. It's just going to happen. We bring those expectations with us. And sometimes you have to set all of that aside and try to judge it on its own merits. I don't know how many times I've said it. I probably said it 100 times by now. Not on this show, but on previous things that I've done. Where it's basically, look, you have to judge it on what it is, not what it can never be. It can never be what you want specifically. And guaranteed that if there's something that you're like, well, you know what, they should have done this. Guaranteed there's going to be someone that disagrees with that. And it's just how it is. They try to make the best decisions possible, and sometimes it just doesn't work. And we'll get into some of those examples. But the idea of them doing a sequel to Solo, I say do it. I mean, why not? Do it as a Disney Plus miniseries or something like that. There's definitely quality in the storytelling there. There's interesting characters other than Solo and Chewie and Lando. There's interest there. And I think they crafted a pretty effective story. In my opinion, more effective than Rogue One. Some may disagree with that. And that's fine, because everybody has different opinions, and that's the beauty of this show. That everybody can have our opinions. But you know what? Let's respect each other. And let's say, you know what? Though we may disagree on this point or that point, we're still fans, right? We may have differing opinions, but it doesn't mean that we're enemies. Call me the Bendu of life, right? I'm the guy in the middle trying to say, hey. It's okay. Let's work together. We're all here. Let's work together. Let's move forward together. But anyway, I don't want to get anything too political, but as you know, or you may not know, if you haven't watched Rebels, the Bendu is a character that is basically neither the light side of the Force or the dark side of the Force. He's in the middle. I like that. It's one of my favorite things about... it's one of my favorite new additions that they added to that series, which was kind of a cool idea, that there could be a character that can see that we all have light and dark within us, and yeah, I think they should do it. I think they should do a sequel to Solo. I think it's an interesting time to kind of branch out a little bit and tell some interesting stories. I think it could be really cool. But of course, you've got to I guess, show that there's enough interest there. I think there is. I think there's plenty of interest. I mean, maybe not as much interest as, like, say, the Snyder Cut, but make Solo 2 happen was, it was kind of a big thing. So, yeah. This is sort of a spoiler if you haven't watched any of The Mandalorian. This is sort of a spoiler for the first episode. So, just be warned. But here we go, okay? That was your warning. I think I was pretty safe on everything I said before, but this is we're getting into at least spoilers for episode 1 of season 2, which is chapter 9. But go with me here. Yeah. So, wow. A Boba Fett show or miniseries? I find this really interesting. So, what they're trying to say here is that there was a lot of confusion stems from the level of secrecy, but persistent chatter could explain the discrepancy. Another Mandalorian-related project or spinoff, I hear possibly a Boba Fett miniseries, would film first, starting as soon as next week or later this month, with Mandalorian Season 3 production coming soon after. So, this introduction of Boba Fett at the end of episode 1 of season 2, which is chapter 9, this could mean a lot of things for Boba Fett going forward. I've kind of had it in my head that what would happen is either the Mandalorian himself, Din Djarin, right, our main character, this guy, would probably be either indisposed in some way so that Boba Fett can take his armor back without violence, and then he would just be kind of off doing his own thing, or at some point he hands the Boba Fett armor over to someone, and then Boba Fett takes that by force. But the idea that they're possibly going to do a Boba Fett miniseries could mean a couple of things. It could mean that that we're done with Boba Fett in season 2. No more. The next time we'll see him is in his own show. I tend to think that what they'll probably do is, again, possibly move him, or they're going to reintroduce him probably toward the end of the season. They want people talking about it. They want it to be a buzzworthy thing, but they don't want Boba Fett to overtake our main character. So I really feel like it will be a cool side element that they'll have in there, but it won't be like, it's not going to turn into the Mando and Boba story. It's just they're not going to do that. At least I don't think so. They've surprised me before. Disney has. And I say Disney because, well, I'll get into that. But I think that Disney, if you want to be really critical of how Star Wars is going and how Star Wars has gone, you have to point to Disney. So, yeah. But this says, Season 3 of The Mandalorian was recently listed with the working title Buccaneer, sparking a guessing game among fans what that moniker may entail. I mean, I don't think it means much, but it is certainly interesting. It's certainly interesting to see that not only are they excited about bringing Mando back, or bringing Boba Fett back, but possibly going into that whole miniseries / side movie that we'd heard rumors of for years and years and years. I mean, there was a Josh Trank a few years ago had been rumored to be working on a side movie, a la Rogue One, a la Solo, but it ended up being canceled after Solo did so poorly. Turns out that was a Boba Fett miniseries. And I think that's what they're doing, Disney and Lucasfilm at this point, is that they're taking all of those side story ideas that they've been kind of toying with and throwing ideas out, and they're going to do Disney Plus series. It makes perfect sense. It gives you the room, the room to breathe, to tell your story. It could be a 4-6 episode little mini episode or mini series, or if there's enough life to it, they could make it into a 10 episode or, multi-season thing. I like the idea of kind of showing how Boba Fett survived the Sarlacc, because I mean, we were kind of told that the Sarlacc's a bad thing, and so it'd be cool to see that story. I don't need it. I don't have to have it. Sometimes and we've talked about this a lot too, is that sometimes the anticipation of something or the speculation of something is more fun than the actual thing that you get. It's sort of like, we could argue about the prequels, that the prequels were not needed simply because it was more interesting to think about what might have been. And that's the beauty of the way that George told the story from the beginning, was that you're dropped in basically in the middle of this huge, all this history is there, and people refer to things that you don't know about, and you just have to think about and go, well, what does that mean? Oh, you fought in the Clone Wars? Oh, yes. Oh, I was a Jedi the same as your father. And you're like, what's the Clone Wars? What is it? Well, now we know what the Clone Wars is, and for better or worse, we know what that is now. The idea of them kind of expanding the universe by telling this story about Boba Fett, you could argue that, number one, Boba Fett was just an piece of armor, really. There was nothing to his character. He mouthed off to Vader. He took Han away and to Jabba, and that's really the extent of his characterization. I get that. I understand that. But that's what's beautiful about it, is that you can expand that kind of stuff. But is it needed? Do we need more clarity on this time that we all, I mean, if you're a Star Wars fan, you kind of know this time now. there's still stories to tell. I'm not saying that there isn't, but there could be a lot of other characters to follow that might be even more interesting and enlightening to the story as a whole. Like, one of the things that I loved about reading some of the, I guess, the new canon, I can talk about a little bit about the legend stuff too, but what's cool about a lot of the new canon stuff is it's taking the history and alluding to past movies, TV shows, whatever, and they're dropping it in like little bits of history. So like when you're telling a story, let's say you're talking about the story of the 19th or the 20th century in America. You may allude to World War II and the Vietnam War, the Kennedy assassination, all these things. But if you're born in 1980, say, all that it's already happened, and you just hear people talking about it and you don't really understand it until you get that clarity. Watch a documentary, read a book, whatever. That's the kind of stuff that's really interesting about the way he just kind of said, okay, here's the story. Let's start right in the middle. Because that way you've got all these things to allude to. It's a neat idea. Obviously I'm kind of biased, but I freaking love the idea. We're going to see a lot more of Tim back on screen in the Star Wars universe. He's not an A-level thespian or anything, but he is widely beloved in these here parts. You know what? Today I did him the service, I guess, which is, he's probably going to call and thank me. But to find out exactly how to pronounce his name the Kiwi way. And isn't it? Let me see if I got this right. Tamura. Like it's almost like you have to roll the R a little bit. Tamura, right? Tamura Morrison. Instead of the Tamura Morrison. I tried. But it got me thinking, I don't know if there's a different way to say it. It's pretty good, bro. Thanks, man. I tried. Tamura. Anyway. I'm excited too. I think Temuera. See, I can't roll R's. That's the only problem. I can't do it. Anyway. I won't embarrass myself even more. It's already hard enough, like when I do the Scottish accent, and I have to say something with R's, and it's basically I just add a D in there, Oh, it's great. I'm just really just putting a D in there. But anyway. Yeah, there's so much space. There's so much room to play. And I think that's why they're going backwards. The new canon, the new stories that are going to be coming out starting in January, I believe, is the High Republic, which is 200 years prior to the Phantom Menace. So that's going to be cool. It's going to be cool. And of course, I think that the Mandalorian has taken a really interesting spot because it's in between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, and there's like that 30-year history there. But I think the thing that they're missing is I like the idea of hearing from people that aren't directly related to the heroes. Like, what is the average person on, say, I don't know, I was going to say Alderaan. Alderaan doesn't exist anymore. But like just a random person on Coruscant, what do they think about what happened between the Jedi and the Sith and the Senate and all this stuff? They're living on Coruscant, down in the lower levels. What do they think about the Jedi? And we've seen little hints of that here and there, but it'd be interesting to see. Like, do they think of them as, oh yeah, they tried to overthrow the Senate and all this kind of stuff? There's so much stuff that could be explored, because I think that's what's cool about the new canon books is that they take some of these viewpoints. Lower levels, you mean 1313? Yeah, exactly. All those lower levels. But they take this viewpoint in a lot of ways of, they talk about things that happened in the past, and there's almost a disdain for the Jedi, which is interesting, you know? So I don't know. I mean, it could be cool. It could be cool doing the Boba Fett thing. I don't want them to get stuck on a specific, okay, this 6-month period in between the 30-year period between Jedi and Force Awakens. Like, I want to see more about Luke. What was Luke doing? I mean, before he started the temple that gets destroyed by Kylo Ren. Excuse me. What was he doing before that? What led him down his path of where he was when we found him in The Last Jedi? What led him there? Because I think that's the... I won't get into that yet, but I will. Let's talk about... I just want to talk about... Because I feel like I need to... When I talk about the sequel trilogy, with regards to everything else, you have to start with the prequels, in my opinion. The original trilogy is what it is. It's what set the standard. I think we can all agree that's where you start from. But when you look at the prequels was the first real canon addition after the original trilogy. And what that did is, most people look at it as, it's the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker. Yes, but there's a lot more. It's the fall of the Jedi. The arrogance of the Jedi. Where they were 200 years prior in the High Republic stuff we haven't seen yet. But in this moment, they are arrogant. They are blind to the bigger picture. They are so comfortable in their, let's be honest, almost supremacy when it comes to the universe. You know, the Star Wars universe. They are well, as Obi-Wan says it, right? The guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy. But they're so comfortable that they can't see the Phantom Menace starting to stake his claims. So I think it's one of those things where you have to really look at it and think about it as a big picture. And the Jedi were arrogant. And I feel like Luke, in his journey of knowledge after Return of the Jedi, I feel like that's what he was doing. He was finding evidence. And this is just my own kind of headcanon, because we don't have anything, really. Other than, I guess, Battlefront, there is a level where it shows that he's in this, like, he's on the hunt for artifacts from the Jedi and the Sith, trying to piece together the story of, the Jedi and the Sith. And I have to imagine that if we look at The Last Jedi as at least the end point for what I'm trying to get at here, he had to be on the search for all this stuff. And he had to find all of this evidence that, yes, Obi-Wan failed Anakin. He failed Anakin by fighting him. Obi-Wan, look, I love Obi-Wan. He's probably my favorite character in all of Star Wars. But he's sort of screwed up by insisting and not fighting for Anakin in the Jedi Council and saying, we need you to spy on the Chancellor. Obi-Wan should have stood up in the council and said, I may be speaking out of turn, and this may not be my place, but we can't ask him to do that. We can't. And that's one of the things that, if you can, to me, when you pinpoint the mistake that Obi-Wan made, it's that one right there. Because it further cemented Anakin's feeling of being just a tool. And it's sad when you watch it. And you can even see the resignation on his face when he says, the council is asking you. You know, and he's like, he's trying to say that this is what needs to happen. But it's the Jedi pushed him. They pushed Anakin toward Palpatine. And it's just one of those things, it's tragic. And you can see it over the course of those 3 movies and in the Clone Wars. You can see the constant arrogance that the Jedi have. Now, does that mean that they're terrible people? No, but their arrogance blinded them to the truth. And if you believe that, if you see all that, you've experienced, watched all these movies and you watch these TV shows, when you get to The Last Jedi and he says that the Jedi failed and the Jedi basically helped to make Darth Vader, you believe it because that's what happened. I hate the fact that people look at Luke's reason for being who he is in The Last Jedi. They look at that and they go, well, that's just so unlike Luke. Okay. All right, let's get started into Luke, because Luke is one of those things that I look at his character in The Last Jedi and I go, yeah, makes perfect sense to me. It makes perfect sense because you've got a character who almost killed his father because he said something about his sister. And you might use that as ammo against me and say, well, if that's so true, then why did he run away? Well, think about it. He's looking at the history of the Jedi, and the history of Jedi is failure, right? If you've watched the prequels and you've watched the Clone Wars and you've watched Rebels, you've seen that the Jedi have done nothing but fail. And they made Darth Vader. They handed the galaxy to Palpatine on a silver platter. And sometimes you could say through no fault of their own, but they were arrogant. And they did have a part to play in the rise of Palpatine. A huge part. And yes, Palpatine was, the plan was beautiful. If you watch those movies and you really watch Palpatine, it is a beautiful, the storytelling is so well done. You can argue, oh yeah, the effects don't hold up. Some of the acting is a little spotty. Yes, but the storytelling is awesome. It really is awesome. The way that everything turned over, and when Palpatine seizes control, you're just like, holy crap. And you can argue that all of that taints the original trilogy. I'm like, I think it enriches it. I think it makes it better. And as I've said before, I keep saying that. Some people don't, some people, this might be the first time watching me, so I apologize. But again, it had been years since I'd really watched the original trilogy. You know how you watch a movie and you just kind of taint. Yeah. But you know how sometimes you watch a movie without really watching it, without really paying attention and really allowing yourself to be engaged in the story, but you just have it on in the background or whatever. That's what the original trilogy was for me for many years. And the prequel trilogy had come out, and had just been kind of living there in my memories. And then, of course, I'm watching the Clone Wars and all that stuff. And then I'm like, you know what? I need to watch the original, like really sit down and watch the original trilogy. Not just have it on in the background, but just really engage with it and watch it. And I got to tell you, all of that, the prequel trilogy, the Clone Wars, when you get to the end and Vader looks at the Emperor and he's looking back at Luke, and it's like you can almost imagine him like, I could be a hero again. I could be the father that he's never had. I could do, all of these things, all of these thoughts of the things that he went through and the things that he did as a hero and then threw away. It's beautiful. And I found myself watching Return of the Jedi, a movie I'd seen hundreds of times, probably. Hundreds, probably. And I'm sitting there watching it and I'm tearing up because I'm thinking about all of the things that he did as a hero, and that he made the turn and said that Anakin Skywalker is dead. But he's sitting there remembering it as his son is crying out for help. It was incredibly moving. So, when you get to The Last Jedi, and Luke is saying that the Jedi failed, and the Jedi need to end because all they've done in history is create their own enemy. And when Luke ignites his saber, Ben sees it, destroys the temple, and becomes Kylo Ren, like proper. He helped to create him. He's got the same failure that the rest of the Jedi had. So by taking yourself out of the fight, you can no longer create this ultimate enemy. Yes, you could argue that that doesn't make sense. But I can see where he could come to that conclusion. Especially, you got to remember, Luke is impetuous. Is that the right word? He makes decisions sometimes that don't quite make a lot of sense. Because let's be honest. Let's be honest here. Saying, you know what? I got to go face Vader. You want any weapons? Nah, hand them over. Do you want any help? Do you want anybody to help you? Nah, I got it. Kind of dumb. The idea that he could turn the ultimate villain, other than Palpatine, it's young and foolish. It's like, and Ben is basically saying he's more machine now than man, twisted and evil. He's basically telling Luke, you didn't see what this dude did. He killed kids. He killed Jedi kids. He wiped out the rest of the Jedi Order. You don't know, you don't understand it. You didn't experience it. And then later on, Luke is sitting there going, this is bad stuff. You know, he's feeling the force within Rey, the pull of the dark side, and he's like, this is, yeah, there's a reason why I got out of this. This stuff is messed up, okay? And he says, basically, Rey is like, we can turn Ben back, and he goes, you didn't see what I saw. You didn't see it. And of course, unfortunately, I think that's one of the biggest problems in The Last Jedi. I think it's one of those things, little bitty thing that could have been added, that could have really helped to sell that Luke had to do what he did. Because you see Luke kind of with his hand, and he's reacting to the things that he's seeing, right? But we don't see it. What if they showed glimpses of him killing the rest of Luke's students, him burning the temple, him killing Han? Maybe a quick shot of him about to fire on Leia. All of those things. You honestly think, from a character standpoint, not Luke, anyone, a person, do you think that if they saw the ultimate, I mean, all of this death and destruction, and you see that it's the future, he would go, it's nothing. Let me just sit down and talk to Ben. No, man. If you saw the future of probably the closest to Hitler that we got, other than Vader and, you know, all of that, Palpatine and all that stuff, you see that ultimate evil, you're going to do whatever you can to stop it. So to me, that's why he lit that lightsaber. Because he was seeing what Ben was capable of and what it was going to happen. If he was going to kill his own father for threatening Leia, you don't think he would do the same if he saw the future of him killing Han and threatening Leia like that? Come on. It makes perfect sense to me. The problem is they don't show it. And people just, well, he had a bad dream, so what? No, you don't understand. The look on Luke's face was like, oh, this dude is for real. So it's one of those things that I think that could have been added. that really would have helped sell this idea. And a lot of times people have said, well, Luke went through that. Luke went through all that. He would never make that same mistake again. I mean, I get the idea that he's the hero and all that kind of stuff, but come on. As people, we learn lessons. We learn hard lessons sometimes. And sometimes we make that exact same mistake again. And I don't know about you, but that's like being human. Being human is making mistakes. And, yeah, it's just part of it. In fact, why am I not doing this? Having this as the background here. Because we're talking Star Wars here. So it's just one of those things that you kind of have to think about. I mean, do you look at Luke as the ultimate hero that can do no wrong? Or do you look at him as a real character with real human emotions, and that is subject to the same kinds of problems and issues and thoughts and dreams and fears that we all have? And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people were hesitant to like the sequel trilogy at all, because they were like, well, the ultimate evil has been vanquished. But the lessons that we learned by watching the Clone Wars and Rebels, other shows, and all the other movies is that the dark side is within all of us. The dark side can never be truly defeated. So that's sort of the thing that kind of, I don't know. I feel like when I watch Last Jedi, all of those things go through my head and they go, makes a lot of sense to me. So if you look at, again, I don't know how else to explain that. I think it's beautiful, and I think that his decisions were, I mean, he obviously figures out that the decision of leaving all of his friends behind is maybe not the best decision, and that he needs to rejoin the fight. Problem is he can't now. And then Rise of Skywalker screws that up too. But we'll get there. What about the middle ground? He's not a hero who can do no wrong, but he's a hero who won't make the same mistake twice. That's the problem. People make the same mistakes all the time, twice, multiple times. I mean, think about this. Okay, here we go. The frustration for many isn't that Luke fell, it's that his fall appears to show he didn't take to heart the lessons he learned in the original trilogy. But what if he saw that? I'm telling you. If you can imagine him seeing his own temple being destroyed, Han being impaled, him about to fire on Leia, the billions of people that are killed by Starkiller Base, and him standing there watching it. I don't know. I don't think that that's too crazy to ask. That Luke may have reacted with almost as a reflex, turning on that lightsaber ready for a fight. And then he stopped. That quickly. It stopped, but it was too late. And that's the drama of it. It's an almost Shakespearean thing. I thought it was beautifully done. It's not being human, it's about how it's not satisfying pop culture drama character writing to see a character repeat mistakes. I can understand that. But I've said it before that I find Luke's arc in The Last Jedi very satisfying, and it meant a lot to me personally, because I mean, it just did. It really worked for me. But that's the thing about any art, right? Some art will touch some people. Some people like it. I watched that and I felt nothing. And then some people will say, I hated that more than anything. And then some people will love it. I mean, love it. And that's the thing. There are parts of Last Jedi that I absolutely adore. And there's other parts that I'm not crazy about. But I don't hate any of it. I'm like, that could have been done better. But there's hatred for it. And that's the thing. I get what you're saying though. It makes a lot of sense. But I don't think that you can put To me, it's not the same mistake. It's a brand new one with a lot more data. And the idea that it's like, okay, I'm looking at the history of the Jedi, and they basically handed Palpatine the galaxy, and we created Vader out of our own ranks. And now, flash forward to the future, and the last known Jedi starts a temple and creates basically the new Vader. I think a ton more people would have accepted his fall and rise in The Last Jedi if his fall had been the result of a new flaw instead of one we celebrated him overcoming in the original trilogy. True. Okay. I can almost agree with that, because that's one of my biggest issues with Rise of Skywalker. Is because they bring back the Emperor. They not only, you're talking about them bringing back a flaw that he overcame, and now he's doing it again. And then in Rise of Skywalker, we defeated a foe, but now he's back. I get it. You can save someone who fell to the dark side, so it's kind of goofy he just gave up on Ben. Again, if you saw those things, if you saw what, it's kind of, to me, it's like this. It's the reason Ben couldn't save Vader is because he saw what he'd done. The reason that Luke would, to me, and this is just me, but the reason that Luke is able to believe, some might say a foolhardy kind of thing to think, that you can save someone like Vader is because he wasn't privy to all the stuff that Vader did. He didn't see it. And of course, you could probably argue, well, neither did Luke. Always in motion is the future, right? That's what Yoda says. But to me, it makes a lot more sense. If you could have shown that on screen, I think it would have made a little more sense. Now, do I agree with them making Luke go into hiding? I don't think it may have been the best course of action. But you can't blame Rian Johnson for that. You have to blame J.J. Abrams for that. And that's the thing, I think one of the things that kind of gets lost in the conversation. Abrams put him there. Okay? Abrams put him there and even gave you the reason. He felt responsible. He gave you the reason. And Rian Johnson just said, you know what? That's one of those things where I have to provide a reason to why someone who everybody looks to as the ultimate good in the universe, why he would leave the fight. He's got to believe that he's doing the right thing. Now, how do you make him do that? Well, so I get it though. Many fans believe Luke knew a ton about what Vader had done. Yes, but it's one thing, but if you think about it, if you really think about it, and you look at the original trilogy, Ben and Yoda never said that Vader could be redeemed. Ever. They never said it. They said, you've got to face him. You've got to basically, and they warned him, hey, Palpatine, hey, no joke, that dude. You got to watch out for him. I don't think they said that, but you know what I mean. But they never said he could be redeemed. Luke was the only one that believed that he could be redeemed. I felt the good in him. Really? As he was sawing your hand off? He didn't saw his hand off. He cut it off with a lightsaber that just, yeah. But anyway. Even if he didn't know all of it before he saved his father, he did by 20 years later when he failed Ben. Yes. But it's just one of those things where, to me, I don't see that it's that big of a departure in his character or in the lessons that he learned by saving Vader. When he saw, it's one thing to read about it. It's another thing to see it. It's just how I looked at it. Ben and Yoda said he can't be redeemed, and Luke believed in love only makes it goofier. He didn't believe in Ben. See, I don't think so. Again, it's one thing to hear those things when you're young, when he's like, what, 22? I don't know oh, sorry. Which Ben are we talking about, the first or the second? I'm talking about Obi-Wan and Yoda are telling Luke Vader can't be redeemed. Then down the road, Luke sees the future, sees what Kylo Ren will become, and that's when he lights his lightsaber. I don't think that's that big of a departure, especially in reflex to protect the people that you love. And then when you see that, oh my God, it's all happening anyway. To me, it makes sense. First Ben is Obi-Wan, second Ben is Kylo, right? And I'm trying to do that, but I like the idea of just as Anakin and Vader are really two separate characters, so is Ben and Kylo Ren. But I get what you're saying. I probably should be more specific on that. Another main part of contention, we're going to get to Canto Bight, is Holdo and Poe. I think one of the big things about... Oh, I was going to talk about Mark Hamill. I'll get right to that. But one of the big things there, and this is one of those things that I feel like, man, it would have been so easy to just add this line. Add somebody in the background. It doesn't matter who. But basically talking about hyperspace tracking. That's ridiculous. I bet there's a spy on board. Then that makes sense. It's why Poe and Holdo don't trust each other. Boom, problem solved. I feel like that's such a weird thing to argue about, but I feel like that's one of the things that should have happened. It would have been one of those things that made people go, well, okay, that kind of makes sense. That's why they don't trust each other, and they're like, I don't care who you are. I don't care that you served under Leia all these years. But do as I say, damn it. Because this is ridiculous. There could be a spy on board, and we got to keep... But anyway, that's a small little thing. But it's one of those things that people keep talking about. Little, and especially like, it's something I've talked about before. Like, when you start, there's a switch that happens. When you start to dislike a movie, you start to pick apart all the problems with it. When in reality, most of those things are probably not a big deal. Bombs in space? That's ridiculous. What about the TIE bombers in Empire Strikes Back? Didn't hear anybody complaining about those. So that whole idea of bombs dropping out of a ship in space already existed. Come on. And yeah, there's a snowball effect. And it's one of those things that irritates me because then people are like, well, that part, there was a mistake in the... Nobody cares. You know, like, I got to tell you, you can send me clips of the throne room fight where there's mistakes in the animation, mistakes where people aren't moving like realistically, all that kind of stuff. We can talk. You can send it to me all day long. I don't. It doesn't matter. Because I got to tell you, in the moment, watching the film, in the moment, I'm not seeing any of it. Because, again, I've talked about action being just a consequence of a good piece of storytelling. When it's not attached to storytelling, action is just a firework. It's just ooh, look at the explosion. Ooh, look at this fight scene. None of that shit matters if there's not story and character and plot driving it. So it's the same as having gratuitous nudity in a movie or, some old lady cursing in a movie. It doesn't mean anything. I'm talking about all of those things in a movie that make you go, yeah, that happened. It doesn't mean anything. How many times has a movie come out? Just think back. In the history of your movie watching experience, how many times have you watched a movie, you've seen it blow up in popularity, and you're like, wow, that movie's a big deal. And then 6 months to a year later, nobody's talking about it ever again. It happens all the time. And it's because when you have a bunch of big special effects with no consequence or no attachment to any kind of story, it doesn't matter. It's just sparkly stuff, right? And that's why, to me, I've gotten to a point in my life where I'm watching a movie, and when a big, long, drawn-out action scene happens, I lose interest. Helm's Deep and Two Towers, I don't give a shit what happens in that. I don't care. I just don't. Because it's so long. It's one page. It's one page in Lord of the Rings. And it's like 45 minutes in the movie. Yeah, but you've done all this buildup. You've got to have a thing. Not for 45 minutes. So I'm sorry. It's boring as hell. Two Towers is... I just don't like it. Return of the King, it's not. It's far from the best. Fellowship of the Ring is the best of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I'm sticking by it. Because there's plot and story and character and actual things that matter, not just a bunch of action scenes. Sorry. And that's why Transformers work so well. You really connect to Sam Whip. Here we go. Pucho. We're talking Star Wars here, okay? It's a Star Wars day. Of course, I just brought up Lord of the Rings. But anyway, so let's talk about Mark Hamill, okay? Because, of course, one of the big things about Last Jedi is that people would say things like, well, even Mark Hamill says that he doesn't like it. Even Mark Hamill said that, he said, before the movie came out, I fundamentally disagree with every decision made for my character. Okay. But let's just, Bucho, you have a completely valid point about the idea that it's whatever decision that he's made on that, when it comes to Ben, it is very close to the decision made in the original trilogy, and you would think that he would go, wait a minute, I get that, but just hear me out. Mark Hamill has spent almost his entire time after Return of the Jedi came out in 1983 being held up as the hero, the ultimate hero, the ultimate almost purveyor of good, right? I mean, I went to a comic convention with him. He was there, and people seriously treated him like, let's be honest, kind of like Jesus. Because he is the ultimate symbol of good and hope and friendship and all those things in Star Wars. So, of course, all of these years, he spent all this time being this ultimate hero, right? So when he reads the script, that he's basically run away, and I get it. I get why you would feel that way. But man, I feel like in a way, it was like, you know what? We're not just gonna have Luke in the moment or in the movie, and we're not just gonna have him be there. We're gonna give him an arc that means something, and that means something to people. And I gotta be honest, like I said, as somebody who is pulling himself out of the muck, going through the stuff that I went through, I found a lot of inspiration in Luke's arc. When he turns around and does the best use of Force abilities in the history of all of Star Wars up to this point, I loved it. So, you can understand why Mark Hamill feels the way he does. And let's be honest, Mark Hamill is kind of an awesome dude. He's got his issues, he's got everybody does. Every person in the world does. But when you spend that much time being this ultimate good, you can see why he might take a script like The Last Jedi and go, the hell? You've made him into a whiny baby again. I don't think he's whining. I think he's got a pretty good point. And I feel like in a lot of ways, a good writer, and I know people will say, oh, Rian Johnson, terrible. I get it. Okay. And everybody's got their opinions. I don't mean to make that voice like I'm saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that everybody's got their opinions. But to me, a good writer can look at a character and say, well, is he a side character? Is he a main character? If he's a main character, then we've got to give him something to do. We've got to make him face some sort of dilemma. And we want to see him go through something. Not just be there and go, "Hi, kids. It's Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. I'm here to save the day and take down AT-ATs." I appreciate the thought that went into it. And I don't think that... I mean, look, Bucho, you make a great point about the idea about the fact that it's very close to what he went through in original trilogy, and you would kind of think maybe he wouldn't make the same mistake again. I just don't see it that way. And it's just because I don't feel it's the same. I mean, yeah, it's similar to us as viewers, but it's not the same to him. I don't feel like it's a similar experience for him at all. It's one, like I said, it's one thing to hear that somebody's a bad guy and he's done all this bad stuff. He hunted down and destroyed the Jedi Knights. Yeah. But it's another thing to basically, in your mind, see him killing your friend and trying to kill your sister and killing all your students and killing all these people with the Star Killer base. It's another thing entirely. And when I'm sitting there watching the movie the first time, that's what I'd imagined. And I was like, oh man, that's really smart. I thought it was awesome. Because, and of course, I've said this before, I love that it's a tribute to Rashomon. You know? That there's different points of view, and that if somebody's not telling the entire truth, you're being shown this not truth. I love that. I love that. And because he basically sugarcoats it the first time when he's telling the story. Oh no, I didn't pull my lightsaber. Ben was just a terrible person. I like it. Because it's the two extremes that didn't happen. And then finally you do see what happened. And it's even more tragic. I love it. I just think that's so smart. It's a storytelling device that's, well, like I said, from Rashomon. I appreciated that. But I can say that the way Mark Hamill plays it, I have to give him even more credit as an actor, because if you're sitting there going, this is crap. This is absolute crap, and I'm not enjoying this. He did an amazing job. And I get, you know, like Jay has, I don't know if it was Jay actually. It could have been Billy or Jay. But there's been many people that have said that Mark Hamill's not the best actor in the world. And you could say, well, yeah, I mean, he's not this huge, crazy thespian. But the guy is good. And I think it's his best performance. It's probably the best performance I've ever seen from him. I'm not talking about voice acting. Like actual on-camera acting. It's probably the best I've ever seen it. And I really appreciated the work that went into it. That's the one I can say that for certain. That even though every time I walk out of a theater seeing a Star Wars movie the first time, I'm conflicted. I don't know what to feel because my own expectations are in the way. But I can honestly tell you that coming out of the theater, I was convinced that Mark Hamill just put on the best performance of his career. So, yeah. So to be clear, I love this. Bucho saying this, by the way. To be clear, I love Hamill's performance in The Last Jedi, and 99% of the way his story is told. I just see where the critics of the details of his fall are coming from. I find the critique valid, even if many of the haters are dicks about it. Yeah, and that's the problem. And we've talked about that too. And this is not just Star Wars, because if you think Star Wars is divisive, open up Twitter in America right now. It's pretty divisive. There's a lot of division. And I've argued that I believe that labels are dangerous. I believe when you have, and we've talked about this on the show, I tried to be super diplomatic about it, but it's true. Whenever you find yourself on one side of an argument, the people who are not very skilled at debate will resort to name calling. And unfortunately, I think that's most people on the internet. They don't know how to debate. I mean, think about it. If you're trying to have a conversation about something and you start with, look, idiot, or look, you stupid, you know what I'm saying? if you start with that, you're not going to get into the person. You're not going to have the person see your point of view. What you do is you try to say, look, I respect your opinion, but here's what I think. And then I disagree. I think it's like this. And then you go, well, you know what? There is some validity to that, and you can try to find this common ground. Common ground on Twitter is rare, but I find that labels are dangerous. Whenever you find yourself on one side of an argument or another, when you start to label yourself, well, I'm of this, and this, and you start pigeonholing everybody into these little groups, you forget the fact that, sometimes somebody that you really disagree with may be living next door. And when you go and get if you go and get the paper, like we're living in the 70s and everybody's in their bathrobes picking up the newspaper off the driveway. Like, if you see them, I mean, not everybody is Clint Eastwood, right? And what's the recent movie? The Gran Torino, right? Yeah. We can all come together over the universally shared opinion about whether Han shot first. Han didn't shoot first. Han was the only one that shot. But there you go. It's just one of those things where you have to, at least in my opinion, there's a fervor and there's almost a fanaticism that comes along with being put in a group. And I'm talking about all kinds of people, I just find that a little dangerous, was that not everybody that's against you is your enemy, and not everybody that's supposedly with you is your friend. Because I guarantee you, no matter what side of the aisle you sit on, there's probably people on your side that you're like, that guy's a dick. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things. Yeah, exactly, right there. It's just funny. And then what I talked about was, the fact that, we would go to a high school football game and wishing death upon the other side of the bleachers, yet we live in the same town, and on Sunday we're rooting for the Cowboys. Like, what are we talking about? We're talking about this little segment of, okay, well, I'm on this side. Damn it. Just come on. I don't know. That's why I'm just like, when I used to watch football, I was just like, I just like watching the game. Oh, that was a good throw. That was an interesting play. Oh man, that sucks for that guy that got injured. I don't know. I feel like my whole life I felt like I'm a different species from most people. Because I'm like, what's the big deal? Those guys are wearing green. Our guys are wearing white. What's the difference? Anyway. Let's move on. Let's basically just say with Mark Hamill, I understand what he said. And I remember saying on one of my mini shows, in fact, Bucho, I think you commented on, and I remember saying it, and I remember afterward going, I feel bad about saying that. I said that Mark Hamill should have kept his mouth shut. Because he immediately put this negative bias in a lot of people's heads about The Last Jedi. And I'm not saying that he didn't have a right to say it. I just thought that, maybe, when you're promoting a movie, you might want to not do that. But then again, the way that he was looking at it, he didn't care anyway, because he already thought it was a terrible waste of his time. But he did a great job. So it's a weird thing, and I don't blame him for saying it. I just wish that he would have given it a chance, because a lot of people didn't like Empire Strikes Back when it came out either. So I was hoping that Rise of Skywalker would be that unifying movie that made you go, oh, I get it now. And it all makes sense. Just like, to me, Return of the Jedi is one of those that, to me, it's not the best movie, but it does a really good job of putting context to what happened in Empire. But let's go into, other problems with the sequel trilogy. Rey's lineage. Now, I know that there's a lot of people that don't like what happened. Bucho, You're a gem. He said, some more Mark Hamill trivia for you guys. Did you know that the car in his 1978 film Corvette Summer was a Corvette? Glad you're here to tell us these things. It's funny. But Rey's lineage. So, big mystery in Force Awakens. All kinds of theories going about. And then in The Last Jedi, Kylo Ren basically says, you're nothing in this story. You're nobody. You mean nothing, but not to me. And I love the way that plays. I love it. And I love the idea of it being someone that she's just somebody with Force powers. And it alludes more to the idea of the Force having a will. I believe that's what Rian Johnson was getting at. You may disagree with that, but I love it. And yeah, the idea that she's basically there to be nothing in the story. I love it because Kylo Ren is basically tearing her down so that he can build her back up. And I love it. I love the way it's done. In fact, I have, with a few exceptions, I have nothing really to say about the Kylo Ren, Rey, Luke stuff in The Last Jedi. I love it. I think it's beautiful. Some of the dialogue is, just pitch perfect. And I love the fact that people kept saying, well, Rian Johnson believes that you let the past die, kill it if you have to, right? And that's what he just wants. And I'm like, you realize that was the villain in the movie saying that? Come on. Is it just me, or is Adam Driver a really good actor? But yeah, he's fantastic. And I feel like The Last Jedi is one of those where, I really enjoy a lot of it. But Rey's lineage being retconned basically in Rise of Skywalker, making her basically a Palpatine. It's lazy. It's fanboyish BS. This is how I feel like it went down. They bring in J.J. Abrams. They say, we want you to do episode 7. And we want you to write a story that's very familiar to bring people back to that original trilogy kind of thing that everybody loves about Star Wars. Nobody talks about episode 2 when they're talking about their favorite Star Wars movies. They talk about A New Hope. They talk about Empire. They talk about Return of the Jedi. So give us that feeling back. So he goes, you got it. And you know what I'll do? I don't want to do any more after this. I don't want to do any more, but you know what I'll do? I'll set up a bunch of interesting things that people can answer later on down the road. Perfect. That sounds great. And he gets going, and you know what? He puts out Force Awakens. And yeah, a lot of people, they're like, that's pretty dang good. And there's a lot of people on Reddit specifically that say it's just a remake of New Hope, and it's kind of like, okay, I guess this is where we're going. This is where Disney's going to take Disney and Lucasfilm together. They're going to take Star Wars into this area where it's just kind of there. We're just going to rehash the old stuff, and hopefully you'll buy some merchandise. And that's kind of what everybody said. And so they go, Ryan, you're working on episode 8 for us, right? Yeah, working hard. Really? They're basically saying that we're not taking enough risks. We kind of feel like we need to shake things up a little bit. What do you got so far? Well, this is what I got. I'm pretty proud of it, but tell me what you think. They read it and they go, oh my God, this shakes everything up. We love it. We think it's so great How about after all this is said and done, we'll give you another trilogy and you can just work on it for, forever. I mean, you can work on those 3 movies for us. What do you think? Oh, it sounds great. It sounds awesome. We get The Last Jedi. And I'm not saying that they had a hand in it, but I kind of feel like that there might have been some things that they might have said, hey, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? I'm not saying that Ryan can't stand on his own, because I believe he can. Knives Out is probably one of the best examples of this dude knows how to write, okay? You can't say it's bad writing. You just don't agree with how it went. But anyway. Last Jedi happens, comes out. And they go, the fans didn't like it. A lot of people didn't like it. I mean, I know we said we were gonna take some risk, but holy crap! But it still made $1 billion. Okay, well, let's just put out Solo then. Let's just put it out. I mean, gosh, I know people aren't happy, but I mean, obviously even the stuff they hate, they watch. So let's put it out. Oh crap, that didn't do too well. Oh my God, Colin. You're writing episode 9, right? Yeah, I think it's going pretty well. I mean, I watched The Last Jedi. I think there was some good ideas in there. I think we're gonna roll with it. What do you have? Yeah. What was that? Solo made how much? We didn't even get close. Huh. Episode 9, written by Colin Trevorrow. Yeah. We're gonna have to just Colin, thanks for your work, but we're gonna go in a different direction. Yeah. Almost like picked up a rotary phone. JJ, hey, buddy. You did a great job for us with Force Awakens. How about you come back and do episode 9? No? No, I know. But what if we give you money? I mean, that's basically what happened. To me, I feel like that's how it went down. Because, especially, I'm telling you guys, if you watch the interview with Bob Iger on StarWars.com, right before The Mandalorian Season 1 comes out, if you watch it, you come away with this idea that, okay, he's not just an executive who knows about Star Wars a little bit. Oh, that's the one with the laser swords, right? Yeah, it's good stuff. I like it. No, this guy knows Star Wars. He is entrenched. He is involved in it. Because all this time I'd been thinking, okay, Disney's doing, they're just kind of like, hey, over you, Lucasfilm is, you need anything? No, we're good. Okay, just we'll give you some money if you need it, and you just let us know when it's done. Thanks. No, they're involved. They are in it. And it's something that I never realized until I watched that interview. And I'm like, everybody's blaming Kathleen Kennedy. Everybody is blaming Kathleen Kennedy. And I can guarantee you that while she may have a part in it, she is not the biggest. I think Bob Iger's the Phantom Menace. Okay? And the fact is, I love a lot of what Bob Iger's done. But if you want to blame someone for the way that there's this, everything's all over the place in the Skywalker saga and the sequel trilogy, you have to blame Bob Iger. I'm sorry. You have to blame Disney. I do not think it's Lucasfilm. Because 7 and 8 are meticulous. Just absolutely meticulous with the story group. All of these connections, these things that if you're a Star Wars fan and you're like me and you've read some of the canon stuff, the canon books, and you've played some of the games, You remember the Clone Wars and Rebels and the prequel trilogy with fondness. You watch those movies and you're like, there's so much great stuff here. Bam, 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 all these things. My brain is going crazy with all the connections. And you get to episode 9 and nothing makes sense. Not even within the trilogy. It just screams. It screams Disney involvement to me. It screams it. So you look at the Rise of Skywalker and you look at the fact that Rey is suddenly the Emperor's back. I mean, even, gosh, Oscar Isaac, it's been memed to death. But Oscar Isaac's somehow Palpatine's returned. No explanation, no reason, no hints in 7 and 8. Nothing. He's just back. And not only is he just back, but it's the first thing in the crawl. The dead speak. Suddenly, out of freaking nowhere, Palpatine's returned. And not only does he have one Death Star or one Star Killer base, but all these Star Destroyers with planet killing. Oh my God. It's so bad. I'm sorry. There's a lot of things to like about Rise of Skywalker. There's a lot of moments that I think are good character moments. But it is messy as hell. And it reeks of somebody going down a checklist. Going, okay, they like the Emperor. Prequel memes. That's a pretty big subreddit. Let's bring the Emperor Palpatine back with no regard to what it means to the Skywalker saga as a whole. Zero regard. Because it ultimately means is that Anakin wasn't the chosen one. Because he somehow survived. It's ridiculous. I'm being very dangerously dismissive of those people who might actually like Rise of Skywalker, so I apologize. It just irritates me. And I'm not saying that if you like it, you're stupid or whatever. I'm just saying that, oh my God. I'm telling you why I'm looking at it and going, it has to me, Last Jedi had balls. You know what I mean? It had the guts to make some decisions that were going to shake things up a little bit. Oh, you think Snoke's the big bad? Bye. Bye, Felicia. I mean, bam, done. And it was like, wow, it's fun. It feels dangerous. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. This is cool. They make a decision in Rise of Skywalker and then backtrack it 5 minutes later. Oh my God, Chewie's dead. No, he's not. I mean, you barely have a chance to register it before they go, oh, just kidding. There he is. It's so many things. There's so many things. But Rey's lineage is probably the absolute worst. Now, here's an option. Here's something they could have done. And this is one of those things where I hate doing this for the most part because people get tied to that. And they go, well, whatever. And especially before the movie comes out. Because if you do it before the movie comes out, then people get married to this idea. And when it's not that idea, then they go, well, gosh, it's not even as good as the thing. Right. Don't compare it to something it can never be. It will never be that. So if you're comparing it to something that you've thought about, you've already lost. You've got to throw all that crap away when you watch a movie. At least that's I feel that I enjoy movies more when I don't feel like I know everything that's going to happen. But anyway, if they had made, let's see. Back in the Clone Wars, there was a series of episodes which showed my pal Obi-Wan declaring his undying love for the Queen of Mandalore. What if there was a baby, and that baby had another baby, and then that baby... How many times can I say baby? Baby. Um, what if Rey was descended from Obi-Wan? Think about what that means. Think about what that would have meant. That would mean in the prequels, you had these two characters, Obi-Wan and Anakin. Almost father-son relationship, but they also regarded each other as brothers in arms. They fought together. They find themselves on opposite sides, and they become mortal enemies. Their grandchildren. No Ray Witwicky. No Bucho. But think about it. They become mortal enemies right away. Rey and Ben, or Kylo Ren. And then over time, they become friends, or even more than friends. How awesome would that have been? I will go you even further, because it's something that I imagined and I went, that would have been so awesome. Okay, so Rise of Skywalker, the ending, you see this amazing shot of Rey and Ben raising their lightsabers together to fight the Emperor. What if Rey is raising her lightsaber and she goes, we'll take him together. And Ben says, I'm taking him now. And he runs, gets electrocuted by the Emperor. And she turns to him and says, are you done? Let's take him together. And he goes, I was just about to say that. Do you think that theater would have stayed quiet during that? It would have been awesome if they had done that. It would have been awesome. I love the idea of Kenobi being further tied in, because to me, the idea that a dyad between the Emperor and Vader is that powerful, I think it's even more powerful if it was friends turned enemies, enemies turned friends. I just think that the dyad idea would have made more sense that way. Now, I mean, in a way that kind of means that, I don't know. I just feel like it would have been more poetic to the whole saga, Yeah, but at the end, she says that she's a Skywalker. Okay. She might as well have said Ray Witwicky, I love the idea of her being a Kenobi. It would have been so much better. It would have made more sense. It would have had more, talk about poetry. The idea of these friends turn enemies and their grandchildren start off as enemies and become friends, or even more than friends, maybe. It's one of those things that I think I don't understand why they didn't do that. I don't. I love the idea. I've said it before. I love the idea of, instead of, Kylo Ren, or Ben landing in the TIE fighter and running in to save Rey or whatever. What if, because you've seen the part in the movies, you've got the remains of the Rebel Alliance. This is prior to Lando's, one of us, all that kind of stuff. Not all of us, or whatever the hell he says. Anyway, they're fighting and all that stuff, and you've got the original trilogy Star Destroyers that they're fighting and all that stuff. What if they go, we've got some ships coming in, and they're a bunch of First Order ships, and you're like, oh crap. And he goes, guys, I don't know about this. And then right behind him, he hears on the radio, it's Ben, who, again, I've mentioned, he's taken control of the First Order. Why didn't we see First Order starships fighting original trilogy starships? That would have been awesome. And as he says, it would have been funny if he would alluded to something that he said to Poe as he's torturing him. And he goes, He goes, we're putting all that aside. We're fighting with you now. Right? And as he says that, that's when Lando and all the other ships come in. Come on. That would have been awesome. And then you could have another poetic shot of Ben turning and saying, prepare my shuttle or something like that. And he goes down to fight the fight with the Emperor, with Rey. I mean, come on. It would have been awesome. Yeah, on your left. Yeah. It just I don't know. I feel like there was a lot of moments that were like, oh yay. That could have been, oh my God, holy crap. I mean, come on. The First Order ships, the Star Destroyers, coming out of hyperspace, and then you see them all of a sudden start taking out. Oh my God, that would have been awesome. But no, space horses. And that leads us to Finn. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Finn could have been one of the best characters in the sequel trilogy, and unfortunately, they made him into almost a damsel in distress. It's almost like they said, well, let's just gender swap the whole damsel in distress thing. We'll have him call Rey's name all the time. It's just like, he's got to feel like, I was duped. They put me on a poster with the damn lightsaber, and by the end of it, all I'm doing is screaming people's names. That's it. I really feel like they missed that boat on that. I feel like, come on, why not make him the template by which the other First Order troopers turn against the First Order? He's the first one to do it. I would have loved that. I would have loved him sitting there talking to Naomi Aki, Jannah. Her talking about how they all just turned. They all just decided not to do it. He's sitting right there. You're telling me that, what's his face? I almost said Danny Trejo. It's not Danny Trejo. It's Chris Terrio. You're telling me you're sitting there with the guy that was the first Order trooper to basically defect, and it doesn't occur to you that maybe he was the template, and they said, well, we watched you do it. That would have meant so much to him on so many levels. Because you can tell that, you can just tell that John Boyega is a passionate dude. And it would have meant the world to him to have been somebody leading a revolution. You know what I mean? It just, such a missed opportunity. I mean, you can sit there and talk about, well, they should have made Poe and Finn, romantic. I mean, look, that's one of those things where I can see the appeal. I just don't know if it would have felt shoehorned into me. I'm surprised they didn't do it, though, honestly. With every other Reddit thread that they basically bookmarked and said, yeah, we're going to do that. And they basically gave all those threads to Chris Terrio and go, okay, here you go. Write a movie out of that. Now, I want to say something else, because I've talked about the people that like Rise of Skywalker. I want to talk about something else, and those are the people that made that movie. If you watch that documentary on them making it, even J.J. Abrams, I got to say, I ultimate respect, because those people were trying to have the best time of their lives, and it looked like they were doing it. And I applaud them for, they put their all into it. The crew, did amazing work. And I'm not just saying that because Yoshi did this, the CG for the Death Star. I'm saying it because I believe it. watching that movie, I can see the work put into it and the love and the care that they put into it. Unfortunately, Chris Terrio and his story was a poop. Or as I've said on the old Game Day stream, poop. I just don't like it. I don't like the fact that you're disregarding history. You're disregarding the other movies. You're disregarding you're still disregarding the trilogy that you're a part of. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling that they would do that. And I know that there's a lot of people that will disagree with me wholeheartedly on The Last Jedi, and I understand. And I respect that. But I think we can all agree that The Rise of Skywalker, it felt like in trying to please everyone, they pleased almost no one. And it's unfortunate. I mean, if you take the movie without any, like, it's almost, and I don't want to make it sound like the people that like it are not all there or something. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that, to me, I can't understand if you're a fan of Star Wars and you've watched Star Wars your whole life. I don't understand watching Rise of Skywalker and feeling like it's like it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense for the Emperor to be back. It doesn't make sense for all of a sudden there were clones of Snoke everywhere, apparently. There's a lot of it that's just like, what? It's like you just said, okay, there's clones, there's stormtroopers, there's Vader a little bit. Let's throw Vader's voice in there. Let's see. Lando. Lando. What is Lando gonna do? I don't know. He's gonna show up at the end. Wedge. He was a fan favorite. Let's not put him in an X-Wing cockpit. You couldn't even get the fan service right. Why don't you have Wedge in a freaking X-Wing? Damn it. Come on. You could have even had at the end Rey flying Red 5 and Wedge Red 2. Come on. It is Red 2, right? I'm going to feel bad. Is red. Okay. Believe it's Red 2. I was like, man, if I get that piece of trivia wrong, I'm gonna look like a schlub. And I don't even know what that is. So there you go. So Finn, right? Then we've got Poe. I really enjoyed Poe in Force Awakens. I thought he should have been in it more. Of course, the idea that they were just going to kill him off, but they liked what he did so much that they brought him back in. That's another thing. But then the idea that everybody is so splintered in Last Jedi, it really takes away from it. I didn't actually talk about Canto Bight. I think Canto Bight is a good idea, bad execution. Because it feels long. Especially the first time, I'm like, when are they going to get off this freaking planet? Because holy crap. But it's like many things. You watch it again, and it's like, oh, that really wasn't that long. It was like 5 minutes. Just feels long. I don't know what it is about it. It just doesn't work. It's like, I remember, it's the one that I always bring up, the Harry Potter book. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. That first part where he's being basically tortured by Dolores Umbridge, it feels like it takes forever. And then the next, like I've read the book, I think I've read the book one more time and then I've listened to the audio book multiple times. It doesn't take that long. It really doesn't. It just feels that long because it's so bad. It's weird. But I don't think, like I said, I don't think Canto Bight in itself is a bad idea. It's just poorly executed. But yeah, when you get to Rise of Skywalker, and let's make Poe a smuggler. He was a smuggler before he joined the... No, he wasn't. My God. Nobody's paying attention to the story group anymore. They literally said, the story group's going, because I feel like in a lot of ways, I feel like the story group is the, actually, those people, but I gotta be honest, those people I really respect. The story group is a group of people that know their stuff. They're people that are they're like me turned up to 100. They are super, super good at knowing all the stuff. And not only all the stuff, all the legend stuff too. Because I guarantee you, Pablo Hidalgo is sitting there going, let's see, where can I throw in? I want to throw in this one, and I'm gonna just throw that idea out there. Hey, let's see if we can get Dash Rendar in somewhere. Let's see if we can get the Outrider in somewhere. I guarantee you, he's that dude. He's kind of I don't know. It's been a while since I've heard from him or really looked into him. I don't follow him on Twitter or anything, but there for a while he got really high and mighty, and it was a little off-putting, so I quit paying attention to him. But the dude is really smart, and the way that he got his job at Lucasfilm was basically putting together his own encyclopedia of Star Wars stuff. That's how he got the job. Like, this guy's doing it for free. Let's see if what we pay him. If we pay him, let's see what we can get out of him. And you could say, well, what if there was stuff in The Last Jedi? You know, there was stuff where it was like arcs. They were shooting, and it looked like there were arcs in space. I'm sorry, but if that's the problem you have with Last Jedi, I don't know what to tell you. You're just not going to like the movie. But I also don't understand the people that have said, nope, only watched it once. I have to watch a movie at least twice because my own expectations are too in the way. You gotta allow yourself to disengage from all of these thoughts that you've had over the years and just allow the movie to exist on its own terms. And then judge it, which is what I did with Transformers. I'm just saying, I didn't, on its own terms, I still don't care for it. And I've watched that movie multiple times. Yeah. Where could they go from here? How could they fix this? How could they repair what I consider to be damage to the Star Wars brand by doing Rise of Skywalker? Some people disagree and think it was earlier, but that's what I think. I feel like you need people. If you're going to have a story group, I think that's the first thing. Pay attention to the story group. If you say, well, what if we make Poe a smuggler? And they go, well, Poe has already been kind of set up as this. Don't go, nah, he's a smuggler now. Yeah, but what about all those people that have read We Don't Care? And I mean, in a way, that's sort of, it's almost like they treated the canon stories like George treated Legends. Where it's like, look, all the Legend stuff, sure, you can read it and that's fine. But I'm the guy. And if I want to make a movie or a cartoon or whatever, I'm not going to regard your stuff. I don't care. Now, if you have a really good idea, I will accept it. Like Coruscant. The idea of Coruscant comes from Timothy Zahn's, what do you call that trilogy? Is there a name for it? I don't know if there is or not. I was going to look to see, but I don't. Heir to the Empire. I guess the Thrawn. It's not really the Thrawn trilogy, though, now, is it? Because now there's a new Thrawn trilogy. I don't know. I'm just saying that that's how they treated it. And I feel that it's just a complete mistake. Why would you do that? First, you buy Lucasfilm and you say, we're going to connect everything. We're getting rid of all this Legend stuff because, man, is it messy. We're going to start over. We're going to start over with all these books. You get people to, okay, I'll try it. And you put out some really good stuff. Amazing stuff. You hire some amazing writers. You come in and I'm telling you, Lost Stars. Read Lost Stars. It's an easy read because it's technically a young adult book. It is fantastic. fantastic. If you are a fan of Star Wars, you will love it. I don't see how you could not love that book. It's really good because it takes a story of two people who end up on opposite sides of the war through the original trilogy and into The Force Awakens. It's amazing. It's great. And then, I mean, we'll go even further. I think maybe I said it. I don't know if I did a review of Enola Holmes, the new, the younger sister of Sherlock Holmes on Netflix, played by Millie Bobby Brown. That whole movie, I'm sitting there going, this is good. But watching this, it makes me realize that it would be criminal if Lucasfilm didn't make a young Leia movie and cast her as young Leia. She looks amazing, and she's a great actress. She's great. She has got just a wonderful career ahead of her. She is so talented. So good. And I'm going to tell you, that the Leia Princess of Alderaan book is great. It's a great one. And it's weird because, again, it gets rid of a couple of problems that people have with The Last Jedi. Makes you realize that, oh, she was kind of using the Force her whole life, Leia, even though she wasn't being trained, but didn't realize what was going on because the Force protects you, right? And then also you meet a young Holdo. So when she shows up, I was like, oh, sweet, Holdo. And then most people were like, why is Laura Dern in Star Wars? Anyway, look, I'm not here to tell you what to like and what not to like. I'm just giving you the reasons from a fan, from somebody who's been, I mean, come on. I probably wasted many brain cells thinking about Star Wars. My whole life, as far back as I can remember, I've loved Star Wars. Legends, I gotta be honest, a lot of Legends just felt like fanboy. It felt like fan fiction. Some of it was so goofy that I just couldn't get into it. Some of it's really good. But I am not a good judge of that stuff because I am too tied to canon. If you're making decisions that are way outside of canon, it throws me off and it makes me feel like you're just being fanboyish. One of the ones that I adored was John Jackson Miller's Kenobi, which was basically the story of Kenobi living on Tatooine in between episodes 3 and 4, which sounds like is what we're getting as a Disney Plus series. I'm very excited. So yeah, it's just there's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of just okay stuff. Like I remember there's one book that came out, and I think it's between A New Hope and Empire. And it's about Luke. And it was just okay. I really want some good Luke stories, you know? That's what I'm hoping for. And hopefully I'll get it. Hopefully I'll get some good in between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, get some good good Luke stuff. Because I find that he's fascinating as a character. And as someone who almost died by making a decision that was a mistake I'd made previously, I kind of like the idea of Luke going through the same thing and coming out of it. Like, here's something. Sam Witwer, who I really like, voice of Darth Maul and the Emperor in many Clone Wars and even maybe not Rebels episodes, but the dude has been, you know, with Lucasfilm on and off doing voice work for a long, long time. He was even the model of Starkiller in The Force Unleashed. Bucho. He made mention of it felt like episode 8 was written by someone who had never seen Star Wars. And I'm like, for somebody who's been working in Star Wars for a long time, I find that incredibly weird for him to say that. I honestly wish he would have expanded on that, because I don't understand what he's saying. I've tried to explain why I don't think that the mistake that Luke makes with igniting his saber against Ben is different than how it happened in Return of the Jedi. It's not the same to me at all. It's a completely new thing. Because he's seeing it. It's not just hearing somebody threaten your sister. He's seeing it. I don't know, man. I don't understand that. Bucho asks, what role would I like Mark Wahlberg to play in Ryan's trilogy? Busboy in Dex's diner that immediately gets murdered by stormtroopers or bounty hunters. But see, that's what I'm missing. I'm missing some really interesting complete side, not Jedi, not Sith, not stormtroopers, rebels. I'm talking about regular folks or bounty hunters. The crime element. That's why I was really excited about Solo, is because I was like, oh my gosh, are they working toward this crime focused area of Star Wars that we don't really get to see? I mean, we get to see Jabba the Hutt every now and then, and, you know, some of these things here and there, but it'd be really cool to see the criminal element in Star Wars. How does it work? How does it really work? Let's really get into it. Solo tanked, so no telling what's going to happen there. I still feel like that's where Lucasfilm is going to head, though. They are going to eventually realize that all of these ideas that have been floated over the years, they can all be mined. And then Disney Plus series. We could do it on Stagecraft. It's cheaper for us. Hire some somewhat well-known people to be in it. Those Disney subscribers, those Disney Plus subscribers will just come running. There's people that actually say that The Last Jedi ruins any chance for Rise of Skywalker, because all of the plot threads that are set up in Force Awakens are destroyed. I don't understand that at all. To me, it's the most interesting way to do it. Like the biggest one, that Rey's a nobody. How does a nobody become the ultimate person on the side of good? How does that work? You could get into the idea of the wills. You could get into the idea, introduce to people who have never seen the Clone Wars, you can introduce that the light side of the Force has a will of its own. And that while she may not have been created by the Force, like Anakin was, maybe, we don't know that. That's one area we're still foggy on. Where did Anakin come from? Which I think it's got to be the Emperor, right? To create life. He's saying that. I think that's what Lucas was alluding to, was that the Emperor created Vader, or Anakin Skywalker. I love the idea, though, is what I was trying to get to earlier, was the idea that if you kill Snoke in The Last Jedi, it leaves Kylo Ren to assume control of the First Order. And it's something that Vader never accomplished. To be in charge, to be the man. What would that be like? Somebody who's so... What do you call it? Bipolar? I don't know what you call it. He's crazy. That's what I was looking forward to in The Rise of Skywalker. Like, okay, how is she going to turn him? Because I had a feeling that's what was going to happen by the end of it, is that he was going to turn back to the good side. But how? How are they going to do that? And I kept thinking that they were going to, and this is before I saw anything on Colin Trevorrow's version of Episode 9. I kept thinking, though, that it was going to be an ultimate battle between Ben and Rey, and that she was going to turn him good and they would have to fight the First Order. That's what I thought. I thought they were building up Hux to be the ultimate big bad that they would have to defeat. And of course, this would come in way at the end, because I don't think Hux could have been, you know, like the super big bad. The climax of the movie would be not Hugs. That's true. Best part of Rise of Skywalker was that scene with Hux, Finn, and Poe. It was funny. It was played for laughs, and it was really good. And then immediately, gone. So I was just like, man. I was still had hope, though. Watching Rise of Skywalker, I still had a hope that that's what was going to happen. But the Emperor, the damn Emperor. And I love Ian McDiarmid, but come on, man. Come on. No reason to have him back. Guys, I hope you enjoyed. I went crazy with the Star Wars stuff today, but man, it just felt good. It felt good to get all that off my chest, you know? I feel like I've been keeping it from in. Well, that's just not right. I'd really like to know what you think, so please leave your comments below on what we talked about. And of course, consider hitting that subscribe button and give it a like if you enjoyed it. It really does help, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.